and welcome to episode number 14 of The Black Feather, an Ospreys Rugby fancast. Did you miss us? I know you missed us. Rod, did you have a
Yeah,
nice time in Cyprus?
I had a lovely time. I was worked hard by my what do you call your father-in-law when you're not married? To my partner's father. He was moving out of his flat in Limassol, so he put us to work for
Nice.
3 days, moving furniture down three flights of stairs with a broken elevator. So yeah, that was good. Got some
Nice.
winter sun, some nice beach time, few little cycles around the place, saw some Greek mosaics. Yeah, really nice.
It sounds a little bit too energetic for me. I can do the beach bit, but not the cycling around. Um, no Mark this evening because Mark, is, as we know, Mark's a head teacher, and Mark's school has nativity tonight and tomorrow night. So he's busy being his school's Mr. Poppy.
Hmm.
And have you seen the nativity film with Mr. Poppy?
No, no.
Oh my God, that is your homework for this week. Nativity is one of the best. When we were talking about Christmas films, I'm really disappointed in myself that I did not mention Nativity
Hmm.
because I have watched it 5 times in the last week.
Really?
Like,
That's
honest
what
to
you've been
God,
doing while you've been ill then.
whilst I've been ill. So basically, it is a film about a school teacher who went to drama school, so now he teaches primary school. And his ex-girlfriend has gone out and he thinks she's a producer in Hollywood. The guy that they were friendly with in school is like the musical director of a really good local school.
Hmm.
And then nativity plays are pitted against each other in the town that they're in. And in order to get one up on this teacher, he's like, yeah, well, she's bringing the producer from Hollywood to our nativity. However, Mr. Poppy is the teaching assistant, and Mr. Poppy is mental.
Okay.
Um, and the kids are, I can't say they're not talented because they are in their own way, but they're a little bit,
Is it School of Rock vibes with Jack
yeah,
Black?
really, really is, right?
Okay, I get the
But
picture.
Mr. Poppy's a nutter. So Mr. Poppy writes this nativity play, and like the Three Wise Men are a boy band, and it's a full-on musical. It's just one of those things where you can't help but watch it and feel utter joy because these
You,
kids are
you you can't
great.
help but watch it 5 times in a row.
Yeah, pretty
But that's what's
much.
great about Christmas, isn't it? It's the routine, it's the
I
tradition and
honest to
everything.
God,
And
if
you know, Cyprus was so strange because you're walking around and it was 20 degrees, 20 plus degrees, and there's Christmas decorations everywhere and Christmas songs playing, and it didn't feel right. So despite how nice it was, I was desperate to get back and get some of that winter chill in my
I
bones,
yeah,
you know.
I
Um,
couldn't do that at all. I finally met up with a friend in London on Sunday, and Nathan is from Australia.
mhm.
And I didn't think it was that cold in London on Sunday. I had like a jumper on and like a leather jacket and stuff. And it was beautiful on the South Bank, all sparkly, and the London Eye was lit up at Big Ben and
Mm.
everything. But he was freezing, absolutely freezing. He was like, "This is Christmas, but this is Christmas on steroids."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "We're in the Johnny Walker whiskey alpine skiing chalet, surrounded by like lights and wreaths and just like mulled wine." He was like, "And it's cold. It's like
Mm.
crazy." Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I've gone a little bit Christmassy with my jumper this evening
Mhm.
because I promised that I would throughout December. So yeah,
But
Mark is
I've got my decks up before you have. So Rod won,
I've been
Sam nil.
bad. I've been bad. I lost my voice and everything. Um, Literally, I felt really, really, really rough. You were out in Cyprus and um you were like, "Oh, can you do like us a favor for the Irie podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." Went on, my voice was proper going. The next day it hit. And then I was rough for 2 weeks solid. Spent the weekend in bed, and that's just not me at all. So yeah, your decorations are up. However, real tree or fake tree?
Well, we've got like a little diddy fig tree at the moment. It's pretty pathetic, but we're not long moving into this place. So what we actually did on the weekend was we walked up into the forestry above the golf course here in my
Oh
stake,
yeah,
and we collected a load of holly and like spruce boughs and stuff. And Amy's been tying them together to make a not a wreath, but
a winter bow.
a horizontal thing to go across
Nice.
the fireplace there. So that looked really nice.
Lovely. Well,
Mhm.
decorations really aren't up there because you haven't got a tree. You've only got
We
a little
have, but
tree.
it's about a foot and a half tall.
Do you know what, right? When we moved into our first house together, I had a 3 foot tree.
Hmm.
And over the years, it's got slightly bigger. This cough, man, is doing me in. So now I've got an 8 foot tree, which was
Nice.
fine when we
Real.
lived in, no. When Westy Dog was alive,
Hmm.
she had a proper love-hate relationship with the tree.
Mm.
Um, and she would take great delight in headbutting the tree. She'll pass it and go and headbutt it, and my tree would just do that. Which, when you've got an 8 foot tree felled, and I'm aware now that I'm going to sound like I'm bragging. I'm not. Over a number of years, when we've gone to Disney, I've collected Disney decorations. So to say my tree is filled with about 400 or 500 decorations from Disney is not an exaggeration. But for the 17 years that John and I have been together, I've collected them over that span of years. And as I said, I started with a 3 foot tree.
Hmm.
Um, so now there's everything on my tree from Star Wars to Haunted Mansion to princesses to all sorts of things. So the tree will go up this weekend and I will post a picture on social media.
Hmm.
But my dog's favourite thing to do was stand there, and certain baubles would have sequins on, and she'd stand there and chew them. And she'd just be like looking as if to see, are they watching me?
So that she can make lovely tinsel poos for you.
Honest to God, right? She'd come over and you'd be like, "You've been chewing the baubles again, haven't you?" And she'd go, and she'd have sequins on her nose, and you'd be like, "Seriously now, dog, I know this is what you've been doing." Or her favourite thing was just to go underneath the tree and just rub on it. And my tree'd be doing this, and I'd be doing my absolute nut because I'm like, I swear to God, if you pull this tree down again,
Hmm.
absolute nightmare of a thing. But I'm glad you've got your tree up. Just get a
Yeah,
slightly bigger one now, and I
bigger
tell you what I'll
tree.
do.
Yeah.
I'll get you some Lord of the Rings Christmas decorations.
Ooh, always up for that. Yeah,
You
I thought
know,
you were going to say black feather Christmas decorations.
you know
That's where
what? I
there's a
could
printed
probably
services of
design
10.
those. I could probably
Yeah,
get
yeah.
those made.
There's got to be a
Um,
service.
we'll do that next
The
year.
Lord of the
We'll
Rings ones, 100%.
Can you imagine? I could
Yeah,
get you a glowing ring or something. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. To go right
And
on top. Oh,
yeah,
the Eye of Sauron to
can
go
you
on the top of the
imagine?
tree.
You could
Yeah,
totally do that.
yeah,
Totally do that. But we digress, guys. So
yeah.
just the two of us this evening. So we're having just a little tete-a-tete, a little intimate gathering. Um, we missed obviously the zebra game, and we don't want to go into that really.
No.
I am really grateful for the fact that I was very ill that weekend and couldn't get out of bed because I only watched the second half. Um, and it was very foggy. It didn't look very nice there. And I kind of saw the score and I was like, yeah, I'm going back to bed.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. So I think
Fair enough.
that's all I'm gonna say about that really. Um,
Through thick and
what
thin,
about
Sam,
you?
through thick and thin.
I'm like,
It
I got
was
out of
pretty
my
thin. It was pretty thin.
I got out of my sick bed, looked at it and thought, no, I'm back
Yeah.
to bed.
No, I think the Irie guys summed it up pretty well last week by saying it was one of the worst losses of the Booth era, and I probably agree with that. And it's probably one that we might regret losing later on in the
Losing.
season. But yeah, let's just leave it there. I really
Yeah,
didn't want to revisit that. I'd already
yeah,
forgotten about it. Zebra who?
yeah. Shove your palmer. Um, it's yeah, it's one of those things where it was like, oh, right, okay. And obviously then my social life has got a bit in the way of things this weekend. Um, because Thursday night I went out to watch Welsh of the West End down the Brangwen Hall with Ellis Bevan's lovely West End star wife, Sophie Evans. Really lovely, joyful. Took my old girl, thoroughly enjoyed. And then I met up with Rod's mum and dad on Friday, bumped into them at the Millennium, seeing Hamilton,
Oh,
which was quite nice. So I didn't see any of the Friday night games. Then Saturday was quite busy, and Sunday I was in London. So I've seen scores, but I've not really watched a lot of rugby this weekend. But let's talk about Sunday. Storm Dara.
mhm.
Um, some damage to the stadium on the weekend caused by Storm Dara. I don't know what it was like up by you, Rod, but it was pretty bad around here by the
I've
stadium.
got a pretty crazy story if you let me digress about it
Go
for
for
a
it.
minute and a half. I'll try to do it quickly.
Go for
We
it.
were having a games night at in my parents' house around the dining room table, and we heard a door slam upstairs. So we're like, as if a draft had caught it. And we're like, well, there shouldn't be any windows open. So Dad went upstairs to have a look. And in their bedroom, they've got a bit of like, they've got bay doors and then a big triangle of glass going up into the apex
Oh,
of the
nice.
house. That massive triangle of double glazed glass was swinging out and the wind was just taking it. And every time somebody walked into the room to see what was going on and opened the door, they created that
Just
draft,
closed
and it
it
would
off.
whip it out again. And it was only attached. This is sort of 3 stories up, with a deck in underneath. It was only attached by the strip above on the top of the door. And it was just going out 30 centimeters at a time. And I've no doubt if it had come off, it would have gone straight through the deck in. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it was crazy. So what we had to do,
carnage.
screw, screws with the rings in the end into the window frame and into the wall, and then just lash the two together because it was going that night.
Oh
It
my
was crazy.
God. That's
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah.
Um, we we've lost fence panels, but then every time there's a storm, we lose fence panels. That's not a surprise because we've got like a wind tunnel cut type stretch of gardens at the back.
Mm.
Um, but I had to nip out for my mum on Saturday, and all around the stadium where you've got like Morrison's and the post office and stuff, around by the train line where the bridge comes over, all the trees were like had come off the bank and were pointing
Oh,
down
really?
onto the road. So it
What,
was
around the
like
stadium?
around the stadium. There was loads going on. So I did think perhaps there would be some kind of damage.
But you
Um,
couldn't see anything? There was no
couldn't
visible
see anything
damage?
major.
Mm.
But I almost fell off my unicorn in shock when the announcement came about us going
Mm.
to Parc y Scarlets.
Yeah, me too.
Um, it was interesting. However, I've got some inside skinny on that and the reasons why. Um, a lot of discourse on Twitter from Neath fans about why the Knoll wasn't chosen. Once again, Neath fans thinking they're being treated like the ginger stepchild at Christmas. Guys, it's not a conspiracy against you. It's not. Um, I will say this loud enough for those of you at the back who continue not to hear it. There is not good TV access at the Knoll for the TV cameras to get into. We can argue this all day long, guys. There is not the TV access there. However, also what they don't have is fibre broadband, which under ECPR rules, there is a requirement to have a certain level of internet speed and various bits and bobs for being able to transmit from the ground. The only ground local to us, because Bridgend and St Helens were looked at, their pitches weren't in a bad enough state for us not to play there. However, they didn't have the technology for us to play there. So, with regards to that, thank you very much to Parc y Scarlets and their team there
Mm.
for allowing us to go there to get the staff in at short notice. They have also had a little bit of damage, so I hear from a hospitality point of view. Then my guys in hospitality said the food was absolutely fantastic. What they managed to hobble together,
I can confirm.
men menu was supposedly really, really lovely with a nice pork pancetta kind of thing. They sent
Oh
me a
no, I
picture of
can't
the cheese
confirm that.
cakes. You
I
can't
can
confirm
confirm
that.
that the greasy burger is half decent. That's what I
It
can
was good.
confirm.
I love a greasy burger. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it, you know, me being on the supporters committee, then the supporters committee had a message from Liam, who does the PR for the club, saying about, the fact that lots was looked at and there's lots of comments going on. But the fact of the matter is, Parc y Scarlets was the only one local who had the facilities for us to go there. Um, so again, thank you to our West Walian brethren for allowing us to have time at your field. I know one of our listeners, Rhod, as well, sent us a really nice message that he'd like us to read out about Parc y Scarlets, and thanks to Lance with regards to and the team at the Ospreys of being able to go ahead and pull something together so quickly. Um, so let me find that because I managed to scroll past it. I believe it was our friend Martin over on Twitter who said that he would like to extend his thanks to Lance and the team for pulling together everything at such a short notice and making Sunday possible. It must have been a massive logistical challenge to negotiate the ground, put staff in place, communicate with supporters, and run the match in a strange stadium. On top of that, the small problem of playing a South African team. Sorry, it was Jeff, not
yeah,
Martin. All of which was done very well in my experience. Well done, Ospreys management. So, Jeff, we'll extend that on to the team
yeah. I
with regards to that.
that wasn't even sent directly to us. I just saw Jeff sent that on the Ospreys fan base Facebook group
Nice.
chat,
And it's,
and it had a big reaction. Lots of people liked the comment and everything. So I thought it was worth sharing. I hope you don't mind, Jeff, if you are by any
no,
chance listening. I thought it captured the feeling quite well.
and to be fair, there has been a lot of negativity about moving, but the reality is you either forfeit the game to get no points and you lose the revenue and you get a fine. It's a no-brainer, really. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it didn't work out too badly for us,
Yeah.
did it?
And
So,
and and it was funny. It's my first ever trip to Parc y Scarlets was to watch Ospreys play a home game because I ain't ever been there before.
um,
And it was a surreal experience. Far too much red for my liking. Sat in that
it's
stand with a puny Ospreys logo up on the screen in the distance, but everything else just
yeah,
screaming
screaming.
Scarlets.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was odd.
It was funny as well because Dara Hayes, our our friend from the URC champ, sent me a message as well, and he went, "Great to see the team in red lose at Parc y Scarlets yet again." Thanks, Dara, bud. Um, but
Love it.
I wasn't there. I was off gallivanting in London for the weekend at an Uncanny Con. Um, had a great day, but I was having some notifications and stuff on my phone,
Mhm.
and I was a bit in shock the first time I had the notification through. I was like, I think I'm reading this right. And then as I kept ticking over, I was like, blinking heck, they're winning. It wasn't what I wasn't expecting it. Hope for the best and see what happens. But how was the feeling in the ground, Rod, when you were there?
Yeah, it was a strange one because it was hard to generate an atmosphere. For those people who didn't watch it or didn't realize or just didn't know, we were all confined to one quarter of the pitch of the stand, sorry, the south stand, because I think of damages elsewhere in the stadium. So, when play was down our end and down our corner, it was cracking atmosphere and it felt really good. But when it was going off in the distance over there, it was hard to see what was going on, and you couldn't, hear the crowd to gauge the atmosphere and what was happening. So it was a bit of a strange one in that sense. But yeah, it was shaky first quarter. A lot of pens given. That was really throughout
Yeah,
the game, but particularly in that first quarter. But we came out firing in the second half. Really turned the screw. it's sometimes hard to like properly gauge the game when you're watching it live because you're seeing bits and bobs from different perspectives. And I haven't watched it back yet, but we really fought hard in the sort of fourth quarter there, and maybe too hard at points to try and get that bonus point. But we got it in the end, which is fantastic. So we're sitting pretty at the top of our pool now with
We are, yeah.
5 points. But there were just some really good individual performances, weren't there? Jack Morgan, uh, to name the chief of them
You
all.
added him to your man crush.
Oh, he's been on there for a long time. He's featured on the list for a long, long time. But he was just all over the place. And a few people commented online that it was like there was
He's a
three men on the
menace.
pitch.
He's a
Um,
menace. I love him.
yeah, and that came across watching live as well. He was just popping up all over the place. It didn't make sense, physically, how he was getting from one ruck to the next tackle in such a short space of time. Um, and
If
yeah, a
he's
few
not
people
picked for the
commented on that
Lions,
online.
there's something wrong.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
he's not picked for the Lions, there's not, like, I don't think we've got many in Welsh contention. I'm really sorry. My dog's being a brat because I've got a box of treats on my desk and she's barking. So I'm really sorry. Um,
Satisfier. Give her a
I'm
treat.
gonna give her another 4 treats. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd
Um,
be tempted to start him at 8 again next week because
give him a go.
that was his best performance this season. And there's been some when trying to pick my back row for next week. I know I'm just getting a little bit ahead of us for a second here, but trying to pick my back row for Montpellier, I look back over the last 5 games, and out of the last five, we've had four different people in the six shirt, and that's been Jack, Lewis Lloyd when he stepped up from hooker to fill a space in a pinch, Beebs, and then Tristan Davis last week. So it's really hard to pick that back row. Nobody is secure in individual spots. They're all just like loosely floating around there. So yeah, why not try Jack again there next week? You certainly gave it a good crack, didn't he?
Nothing, he is one of these where, and when I say menace, I mean he's just a pest.
Yeah,
you know, he must be an absolute nightmare to play against.
yeah.
And I think, he is one of those who's firmly put his hands up to Andy Farrell and said, "Hello, I'm you. I'm
Hmm.
you. Give me a chance."
Yeah.
Um, and nice to see, tries from Keelan,
Hmm.
and Kieran Williams. I did see some action shots of Dan Cassendi online. How was he looking with his run out?
Yeah, yeah, he's looking good. Equally as sort of lively and dangerous in open space as
Yeah,
Keelan on the wing there. Yeah,
yeah,
looking hungry for it. He's often coming inside in that way that a lot of South African wingers do these days, drifting in, chucking their shoulders in on a rack where needed, just being really sort of busy and proactive about how they play the game rather than just
amazing work
waiting
rate.
for opportunities to come their way, actually going out and pursuing them. So that's pleasing to see. Uh, Something does feel still a little bit disjointed in that back line. Don't
Mm,
know where it's coming from. Obviously, when Dan Edwards came on in the second half, Owen Williams shifted to
yeah,
centre. And I think things got maybe a bit more cohesive from that point. I mean, I don't know whether that was Owen Williams, taking the pressure off his shoulders and going into a sort of assistive role in the centre and allowing Dan Edwards to just lead, or whether it was um, just his presence there as and his merit and what he can bring to that sort of centre role. Maybe that's the future for him as he sort of guides through the next generation of fly halves, but shifts into a different kind of game at centre.
yeah, and you're right. I think it is about bringing those younger players through, giving them the benefit of the experience
Hmm.
from, I suppose you'd call it granddad status, really, wouldn't you? Giving the
Yeah.
giving the older players that granddad status and giving them the benefit to give their sometimes hard fought knowledge,
Hmm.
to the younger to the
Yeah.
younger players, with regards to that. And I saw a nice quote online from Jack after the game as well, where he did say there's pressure on every game. Every game is tough. But we worked hard in the week. After last weekend, we knew how tough it was going to be and how hard we were going to have to work defensively, and it helped us get that win.
Hmm.
Um, and I did see some of the stuff with his interviews post-match. He's composed.
Mm.
For his age, he's very composed.
Yeah.
And I think him be for someone his age, he can only grow and be a leader. It's a bit
Yeah.
like Sam Warburton being given that chance when he was, 22, 23. I think I'm very firmly of the opinion that a leader is born, not made.
Yeah.
He's
Hmm.
obviously in that mold, and that's what you want.
100%.
Um, yeah,
100%. Yeah.
and I think for me, that result made me very happy on
Mm.
Sunday. I've seen a couple of the highlights. I've seen the tries. They looked like well worked tries.
Yeah.
They looked it looked like it meant a little bit of something to them then to get that win. That
Yeah.
seeing the way that they reacted at the end, it was lovely to see. Um, it does look as though we're doing the same as we did last year, though not too great in the league, but
Yeah.
Europe is clicking better. Obviously, we know
Mm.
we've got Montpellier next week, um,
Again,
again,
I'm sick
but
of it.
we've done. Do you know what? Right, uh, this time it wasn't last year; it was the year before. They all went on a jolly to Montpellier without me,
Oh,
all my
really?
friends. Yeah, because I can only have so much leave Christmas
Mm.
time because of my job. I couldn't get the weekend off because I needed the Friday and the Monday. And I think it was the 19th of December or something like that. And there's like, you were not going anywhere for that for work wise.
Yeah.
They had a cracking trip. They weren't expecting anything. And they only went and got the blinking win and met Mr. Altrad himself, didn't they, in hospitality. So I don't think it's got the fear factor for us, perhaps that it
Mm.
could have. But then we've got nothing to be afraid. We've beaten them.
Yeah.
Um, so I suppose that gives them a level of confidence. And when we beat them last time, we had a heck of a lot more injuries than we've got
Yeah. Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
think. Yeah, but obviously they've just beaten Dragons away on the weekend, and I know that's
yeah,
maybe not the test that you'd hope to
mm,
have, but they came away with the win, scratched it by 4 points, so they'll have a little bit of confidence, and they're going home. Um, so we'll see.
yeah.
Yeah.
But how I know you watched the Scarlets game, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Although
Um,
just still on the Ospreys, there's a few
yeah,
players that just need to have
go for it.
shout outs. I think on the rap pod they said Deves was very physical, but he gave away quite a few pens through the course of the game. But you know, maybe he was a bit reckless, but I think that was almost a conscious decision in order to just up the ante to break that string of losses. I'd rather in that kind of situation you just sort of turn up and almost risk a card. Obviously not going flying in with anything reckless, take somebody's head off and get a straight red, but push the boundary a bit just to get yourself psyched up if that's the kind of player you are. So I think Deves was just going full metal jacket, just yeah, yeah. Really
I like
enjoying
him.
himself out there, and it was enjoyable to watch. He was really physical. Tristan Davis on blindside really laid down the gauntlet. He looked so physical. He matched the opposition in power. I was really impressed by him. Seems that sort of natural six, and maybe not in play and style, and certainly not in skills and attributes yet, but running around the place, he had something sort of Lydiate about him. The way he carries himself, he's really broad. And he's got that stock, not necessarily really ripped. Lydiate was never massively ripped. He just had a lot of girth, didn't he, and a lot of heft. And I think if Tristan Davis put on a few more kegs, he'd be, working towards being that kind of big, natural, aggressive six. Yeah, we've already covered Keelan Giles and Consende. Both looked really dangerous. And yeah, just a word on Dan Edwards as well. I know we mentioned him briefly, but the confidence he plays with just gives me joy, Sam. He came out of nowhere for that last try and did so well to stay up and finish. He's just phenomenal. He's the future, isn't he?
Let's not, yeah, give him chance to come into his own. because he is starting to show those buds of being a real talent.
Yeah.
It's there. It just needs to be nurtured, I
Yeah.
think, is my feeling on it. Um,
He just makes his
it,
own confidence. That's the thing. Like, you have these confidence players that rely on that as an external force, like Owen Williams, He
yeah,
he he needs he needs that guidance.
validation.
Given that validation, yeah, that confidence from his management, from the team around him, from how he's just performing week to week to just get better and better. And
But
that
some
works
people have
in the
just got it, haven't
reverse.
they?
Yeah, Dan Heads has just got it.
It's
He makes
it's
his
an
own
X
confidence.
factor. It's an
Yeah,
X factor thing.
yeah.
Um, and love him or loathe him, Marcus Smith kind of has that about him as well.
Mm,
And I don't
yeah.
want to say that because he really um yeah, he's one of those where if I was an England fan, I'd be like, I love you, Marcus Smith, but I'm not an
Mhm.
England fan, so I kind of want to be like, cut your
Yeah.
blinking hair, mate.
I do think Smith
But
has got a touch more like arrogance.
arrogance, yeah,
I'd say, but
yeah,
maybe I'm being biased. Maybe I'm being biased.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things to see, and I think it is the key now of bringing those players through and um giving them that skill set and that confidence.
Hmm.
And he's got it. We need to bottle that now and make sure he keeps it. Whatever it is, then we need to keep sure that he keeps it. It's the same with the
Hmm.
likes of Derby and Jack. There's an inner steel there with them,
Yeah.
and an inner belief in their abilities. And again, that needs to be protected and
Hmm.
harnessed. And that's what we need to do. I think there's been a lot of talk in the media since the autumn internationals about the playing stock we've got and everything else. We do have to realise we're not the biggest in Wales, but we're
Hmm.
not. We're not these man mountain South Africans, but we've got beautiful players who can handle a ball and do magic with it. We need to harness and tap into that and realise, yeah, okay, they're not the biggest, but there are things that they can do in the gym to make themselves bigger, to bulk up, to be stronger. But it's taking that natural beauty with the ball. And if they've got that, sometimes that's really hard to play with because it's unpredictable. And perhaps that's where our strength lies, is not that big, bulky, heavy hitting. Perhaps it's with that skill.
Hmm.
And that, because let's face it, DuPont's not the biggest, is he?
Some of the
But
greatest
he's
players in
strong
the world right now,
and not the
yeah, are not
biggest.
big players.
No,
And you called up, you name checked South Africa. They epitomize that, you know.
yeah,
They put the players on the pitch that are the best.
yeah,
Not the best in their position, just the
the
the best
best.
athletes, the best,
Yeah,
people based on form, based on results at club level. They just put the
yeah,
best in there
yeah.
and they make it work. And there is something to be said for that.
And it does annoy me that there seems to be sometimes this your face fits mentality with
Hmm.
Wales. Um, and I know that there's people that we've said we can see in Wales shirts in the future, leave them alone for now,
Hmm.
but we can see them there in the future. But there's very much people who are playing at the minute, and not just for the Ospreys, we think could do a number for Wales. We're just not. We're just not.
Yeah.
We're not fitting our cloth according to what we've got, I think,
Mhm.
sometimes, and that's our undoing. But we could go on about this for forever.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
there's some exciting youngsters coming through, like you said, elsewhere, but also at the Ospreys. Lewis Jones
yeah,
looked really good off the bench. Um, I think one of his stronger performances this season and last season. He looked really up for it and physical. James Fender being back, amazing. He's just looking so
he's a
imposing, isn't he?
nice
He's like
kid.
the Welsh Eben. Um, yeah.
Honestly, I stood next to him, right? And I was just like, I felt like I was a kid who needed to put their hand up to walk with their dad. He was
Mm,
just like a man mountain, but no speaking to him. He was so gentle
mm,
and he was so lovely and he was quite, you can tell his age because he was quite young and
Hmm.
you know,
I know
um,
he's got a few brothers, isn't he? Is he the
they all
eldest?
look like him.
Is he
Yeah,
the oldest?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
they are the spit of him. They're
There's
all
a few
big
coming
lads.
through, aren't there?
They're the spit of him, and you're there, and you're like, please tell me you play. Please tell me you play because you look like you cut from the same
Yeah.
mold. Um, but this is what we need is to see people coming through
Hmm.
and to get away from that, that whole this is who you play for, this is your pathway. Just give kids the chance. You don't know what they're gonna be like, you know. And if they're good enough, get them onto these player pathways, get them into the academies, give them what they need, give them, the support.
Yeah,
Sam
look
Warburton was
after
right
them.
when he was saying capture them when they're of a certain age. So,
Yeah.
no good bringing them in when they're 18 or 19. You need them when they're
No.
13, 14, 15.
Yeah, yeah, because then they form that loyalty, don't they? And I know
Yeah,
that's all under threat with proposals from the WRU, but no, you need to foster that loyalty, don't you?
yeah,
To stick on
yeah.
topic. And the best way to do that is get people invested early who are from the region, and then when you bring them in, make them feel looked after,
Look
nurtured,
after them.
loved, guided, and they'll forever be sort of, bonded to the club, even if their careers take them elsewhere.
Give them the training, give them the structure, give them the education.
Hmm.
You know, like Mike Ruddock is trying to do with the uni. Some of these kids are not daft. Give them a skill that they can work alongside. So if their career does come to an end, they've got something to do afterwards.
Hmm.
They've got a skill.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what I was watching. What was I watching the other day? And they had Even Phillips on there, the Osprey
Mm.
lad.
I saw him on the weekend.
He was on as a pundit. Really good.
Hmm.
I liked what he had to say.
Yeah.
So it's good that he's still got that support from the club. That's what I like, the support that he's got from the club after his horrific, accident. Um, and he's still within that fold. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
You saw him on the weekend, did you?
Yes, yeah, just walking around around the stand because it was only that quarter of the stand open.
Yeah,
Everybody was filtering through the same areas, so you actually got to see all the come-ins and go-ins. Um,
good,
yeah, yeah, it was good. It was good.
good, good, good.
Nice
Um,
to see him
you
looking fit.
you watched the Scarlets game.
Mm,
They seemed to lose that right towards the end, from what I saw. Um, I'm following all the big clubs on Twitter, so I see it. Like if I can't watch, then I can see what's happening kind of on Twitter. And I thought,
yeah,
oh, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, as a neutral, quote unquote, it was a tough watch. Well, maybe not as a neutral. Trying to put myself in Scarlet's shoes, it was a tough watch. That ending, yeah, there's nothing more brutal, is there? Just to let slip because of silly decisions or a bit of naivety right at the very end when you looked in it and arguably, dominant at points, or maybe not dominant, but yeah, so very frustrating one for them. I was watching it on my phone whilst watching a film, so I wasn't paying massive attention.
Too much attention.
Yeah.
Um, but none of the regions really did themselves and out in this weekend, really, did
Hmm.
they? Apart from us.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, Dragons, they did come back from a 18-0 deficit to bring it back to 18-14, and that was a pretty impressive showing. That happened in the sort of second half of the first half, as it were, and then playing with the wind after that in the second half, having the sort of wind advantage, managed to score no points. So yeah, that one was a bit flat for the second 40 minutes. Um, yeah.
Philo Tia came out as well and said quite strongly afterwards we weren't good enough.
Yeah,
Um,
well, he specifically said the boys were selfish. I thought that was a bit harsh. Um, I think, naive maybe would have been a better
yeah,
word, maybe equally as harsh, but maybe captures it a bit better. selfish. It's not what I took out of it. It just felt like dragons doing the same things over again and just not learning. That's what's frustrating about watching dragons. I do enjoy watching them, and I root for them when I do. But
Yeah.
it's just the same.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just frustrating. Why can't they learn and improve?
yeah.
Pick an element each week that you're not doing well on and work to improve that one thing. And then the next one, and then the next one. Maybe they're
Just
trying
build.
too hard to just correct everything and keep all the plates spinning when they should just let off them crash on the floor and just, I don't know, target a good
Throw
set
stuff
piece,
at the
make a
wall and
couple
see
of
what sticks.
choice recruitments, yeah, a couple of big forwards. They haven't got a lot of size.
Yeah.
Um,
The
yeah.
quote that I saw was we weren't clinical enough. And there were some moments where we just did not play as a team. We just have to learn faster.
Hmm.
Um, which, again, is one of those things where it was, yes, I can see that um, happening. The other thing to come out of Dragons is how hard is Shane Lewis Hughes with his finger amputation.
Yeah, and be back in a couple of weeks. Hard as
I'm
nails.
like, I ain't being funny, mate. That is like,
Yeah.
that's balls, that is.
Yeah.
I love the pictures of him in hospital with his hand up in
Oh, I haven't
traction.
seen them. I haven't seen
Oh my
them.
God. Yeah,
Oh, I
like
want to check
proper
those out.
bandage and stuff with his hand up. And
Yeah.
I was just like, do you know what? Fair play to you. It's giving you niggle. It's giving you a bit of jip. It's, I say it's only your ring finger, but it's your ring finger.
But it was ring finger on his right hand, not
Right
his left.
hand.
Yeah.
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 Um, so
So
it
for
was like,
those, sorry, I was just gonna surmise for Ospreys fans who I don't know, engage in the other regions. I think he's been struggling with it for a couple of years, a pre-existing injury that just hasn't
pain.
healed, and that he was told that if he let it go on, he could be at risk of losing his hand or even his arm,
Yeah.
possibly. It would certainly force him to retire. So yeah, he's just
He
locked it
just made the
off.
decision, finger gone.
Yeah.
Which, fair play. That's kahunas for you, isn't it? Like
Cigar cutter,
absolutely.
I heard.
So
DIY job.
I was watching something the other day and it was a mafia kind of thing. And they had the mum's finger in a cigar cutter. And I was watching it and I was absolutely cringing. Um, I am not squeamish at all, right? Until I broke my arm. Now, if anybody's breaking a bone or losing something, I've genuinely got PTSD. I'm
Really?
there, I'm like, oh, I'm not squeamish, right? I wish I'd been good at science because if I'd been good at science, I would not be a lawyer. I would be a vet or I would be a doctor. I love anything to do with that.
Mm,
Absolutely. The only problem with being a vet would be I would probably struggle putting animals down, but then I
mm.
suppose that's something that you get
I
used
think that's 80% of the
to-ish.
job, realistically,
Yeah.
Sam.
So that's probably I would probably have a house filled with like, animals and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, ooh, it proper gives me I had the whole Woody from Toy Story moment when I broke my arm. John
Mm,
was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "No, I've broken my arm." And he was like, "How do you know you've broken your arm?" And I moved away from the wall and my arm just went bang. And he
mm.
went, "Can you lift your arm?" And I was like, "No, John, I broke my arm. And I broke it in three places just above my elbow. So I've got a plate and pins that
Oh,
goes
have
all the
you? How
way."
did you do that then?
Oh, I tripped over a curb
Hmm.
just after Christmas, 2021, COVID time.
What did you
Um,
hit?
I literally, I tripped over a curb and there was a wall in front of me with
Mm.
steps and railings and an iron, like a handrail. And my face was going to go into the wall. And because
Yeah.
I'm vain, put my arm out to stop myself from smacking the wall.
Yeah.
And my arm just snapped above
Jesus,
my
in two
elbow.
places. Wow.
Three. If you're
Three.
going to do
Wow.
it, Rod, do it well, right? I hit the wall anyway, massive lump here, COVID and
Hmm.
whatever. Absolutely worst.
Hmm.
Like, I just knew I'd broken it. I said to John, don't bother getting an ambulance, just take me to hospital. Oh my God, what a literally absolute clusterfuck of my life, right? We get there. The woman behind the counter, English was not her native language, and this is not me I'm not being racist in any way, shape, or form, but everybody had the PPE and everything on, and we'd had COVID over the Christmas. So she asked me if I'd had COVID, and I said, no, we've had COVID. I'm testing negative. She misheard.
Mm,
So they walked me all the way around the hospital with my arm just flapping beside me like a flipper, take me in, and I had a new jumper on that I bought for Christmas. I'm thinking, please don't cut my jumper off. Please don't cut my jumper off. And they come in the big hazmat suits and go, you've
mm,
got COVID. And I'm like, I haven't got COVID at all. Like I'm absolutely, I've had it over Christmas, but I'm negative. Walk me all the way back around the other side of the hospital, and I'm like nearly crying now because I can feel the bones rubbing in my
oh,
arm, and I'm like, I'm not in pain. I'm beyond that now.
mm,
Oh, what a nightmare. They x-rayed me, decided that they were going to try and set my arm first to try and save me from having surgery.
mm,
But of course, because it's COVID, you've got all these individual gas and air sets. They couldn't find one, so I ended up having my arm set without gas and air. They
mm.
put me in plaster between year and year, and it
Wow.
didn't work. I ended up having surgery anyway.
Oh, really? There's,
So it was like the surgeon kid always like, we're gonna have to give you surgery. You're gonna have a bit of a scar. I was like, yeah, I don't care.
and
And he
now
was
you're
like, yeah, but it's
bionic.
I'm
Now you
super
got
bionic. So
metal arm.
if anybody annoys me, they're having my elbow to their head.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's weird because you can feel the plate, yeah.
Mm.
Next time I see you, I'll let you feel the plate pinned in
Okay.
my elbow.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to say
But
that I can sympathize, but I'm one of those annoying sods who has never broken a bone in his body,
oh,
despite the situations I put myself in.
don't do it. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. And it's one of those things now where anybody does anything like that, I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I know
Yeah,
how
now
that
you know. Now you know.
feels.
Once you know, you
Um,
know. Yeah,
so yeah, fair play to him for, making that decision
yeah.
and being able to go back to playing. Like
Mm.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to Montpellier
Yes.
this weekend. Out in Montpellier. Um, very different conditions over there to over here.
Hmm.
Um, it's likely to be what we would class as quite warm. When John was out there, they apologized for the poor weather, but it was like 15, 16 degrees. So it's going to be relatively nice for them out there. I know that you've looked and picked your team for
Mm.
traveling. So who do you want to? Um, who would you like to see playing?
So I've gone with 66.6% of the front row unchanged from last week. So I've stuck with Gareth Thomas and Dewi Lake, but brought in Tom Botha instead of Ben Warren and moved Ben Warren to the bench. Botha came off the bench the weekend just gone, so
Yeah,
I assume he's working, sort of back up to fitness. So hopefully be ready for this weekend. I think it'd be good to just have his scrum dominance, his scrum nous in there, and then maybe bring one of the younger bucks on in the second half at some point. I've then gone for this was tough. I've gone James Fender and Lewis Jones as locks at the expense of Will Greatbanks. I'm not entirely sure on him so far, but we haven't seen a lot of him. I think the weekend just gone, he just looked so small compared to James Fender, but that is just any person up
James
against James
Fender's
Fender.
big.
But it just kept striking me as he was running around the pitch. I was almost looking out for him, expecting to see somebody who's, a head above everybody else. Like, well, James Fender's probably two heads above everybody else. And I just wasn't seeing him, and he didn't feel that present. But I guess you could have other benefits, that I was chatting in the stadium with the guy sitting next to me, Nice guy, didn't take his name. But he was talking about how sometimes you want that lighter, smaller second row that you can really throw up in the air at line out time. And yeah, that's a legit point. We'll see how involved he gets
Yeah.
in line outs going forward. But I have booted him down off my starting 15 this weekend. He's now on the bench. Lewis Jones coming in because he looked good off the bench, looked physical. I mentioned him earlier. I've then gone for Harry Deeves on the blind side, Justin Tipuric open side, and Jack Morgan again at 8 because I thought he just played so well. Why not give him another, opportunity to
Another little
do that
hour.
role? He enjoyed himself. He looked like he was having a whale of a time. So nobody wants to spoil the party for him. Yeah, obviously Tipuric coming back in. He had a HIA the weekend just gone, didn't he? I think that's why he was absent.
Yeah.
Or HIA in the week at some point after the game before. So hopefully he's back up to scratch. Yeah, coming back into that open side position. Like I said earlier, we've had four different players at blind side in the last 5 games. So that one's just becoming ever more tricky to pick for me. I just don't know who's best suited. Who is our nailed on six going forward? You got any thoughts? I mean, Davis was really good last weekend, and he's
I
definitely someone for the future, but we don't want to flog him too early.
No, I think it's one of those things where I think we're trying things out at the minute, and I think we're trying combinations to see what works and what's productive for us.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those things where I'm not entirely sure
Hmm.
because depending who else is playing there in that back row is kind of depending who I would think would fit in and would be
Yeah.
there. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah.
Um,
Like I was
so I
tempted
haven't
to
got
put
any hills
Morgan
to die
Morris.
on.
Morgan Morris
Yeah,
is the key person omitted there, and I have got him on the bench in the 20 shirt. But who does he come in for? I feel like you bring him in for Harry, and you're missing a bit of that
yeah,
energy. You're bringing him in for Tiprick, and maybe lose some of that just handling and maybe a
experience.
bit of experience and leadership. You can't take Jack off, so that was a real tough call. But I guess that's a real
That's where we've
good
got
place
our
to be.
evidence of riches, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um, you
totally.
know,
So backline then, I've gone Kieran Hardy and Dan Edwards. I thought it was right to bring him in for this game. Just give him the opportunity to really step up, and I think he will. Then in the centres, Kieran Williams, Owen Watkin, standard. We're pretty stricken with injury at the moment in the centres. There's a few players that we haven't had updates about, but in a little while. But I assume Phil Cokanasiga and Avadi Boshoff are still injured, so that
I
just leaves
think
us really with Keith, Watkin, and Tom Florence. So yeah, I've opted for the standard combo that is Keith and Watkin. Uh, then on the wings, I've gone for Giles and Cassende. They're both playing well. No case to step either of them down. And then at 15, I've got Jack Walsh because I like him.
man crush.
Good hair.
I just love that you embrace your man crushes. Better than me with my girl crushes with like Tay Tay and Kylie. Um, and if I can just say, Ilona May is in the UK. She's signed for Bristol Bears ladies. I love her.
Yes. Yeah. Huge news. Huge news.
I love her.
Yeah.
Um, I we know I'm a feminist. I think I've made that perfectly clear. We don't need that to I don't need a mug with that on.
Mm.
Um, she is just a joy. I love her. She shows that a woman can be strong. It doesn't have to be this tiny little petite thing to be attractive or dynamic. I just love her.
Hmm.
And she's come to the UK. I followed her on TikTok before the Olympics. Um, and on social media, but she is just a joy. She's embracing life in Bristol. She tried a Sunday lunch Sunday and she was just living the dream. So I am gonna see if I can get down to watch her play because I think she's going to be a cracker. I think
Yeah.
there's talks about her going on the wing. So breaking news, probably
Hmm.
moved into breaking news really. But I'm really really excited to see what she can um bring to it. And
Same.
there's a young lady that I follow on TikTok and on Insta called that Rugby Girl. Frankie is 14, 15, something like that. Loves
Hmm.
playing a rugby, really loves professional women's rugby, has got her own channel and her own podcast and stuff. And the joy on her face when her dad told her that Alona Mare had signed for Bristol, it was like someone had given her £1 million. And that's what I love seeing about rugby is like these just it just brought me joy.
Yeah.
And she's doing her own thing. She's so confident and she's so fantastic. Keep
Well,
like I she's following me. If you do see this, Frankie, keep going, girl. You're only young. I wish I'd had these opportunities when I was your age. You're just a joy to watch, mate, on Insta.
yeah.
Keep it up, girl. Do your own thing. Stay in your lane and do your own thing.
Yeah.
But
Good on her.
I absolutely I love that.
And she'll
Um,
be the envy of her millions of American followers who aren't going to be able to watch her play rugby anymore.
yeah,
Because
like
I can't remember
uh,
the specifics of what the women's Prem streaming is like, but isn't it just one game a
it's
weekend is
two, three
broadcast
games a
live out
weekend.
of,
I think they're going to change that.
you think they will in response to this, is it?
They've already had to change where they're playing the women's games because the ticket sales have
Oh,
exploded.
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that'll
yeah.
be good then, because
Two
otherwise,
thousand normally. They've had to move it to Ashton Gate, her
yeah,
game.
yeah. Oh, that's good. That's
Um,
good. Because, would have been the case that you'd have to just basically go and see her in person if you wanted to see her at all most
oh,
weeks.
do you know what? I was
It'd
looking
be
at the Cardiff.
crazy
I know. I just,
for like the
I just,
number one female sports superstar in the game that
yeah.
it could be an eventuality where you just can't watch her week on week.
And I'm wondering when they've got their like Bristol and Bath big day out in the stadium next year, whether they perhaps bring the women's game, because they're doing a whole thing and they're having a band and whatever. So they're having the big day out in Cardiff, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, do you know what? That would be if you get people going to that, people are going to go to that anyway. But you've got a 70
Yeah.
odd thousand seater stadium, and everybody that I've spoken to is like, I wonder if they'll get the ladies there now, which would be fantastic. But
Hmm.
the other thing that I watched this week as well, um, the England rugby documentary Unbreakable 2003.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Fantastic. Um, Really good look into sad at times as well. Um, about the when they won in 2003, professional rugby had only been going for sort of like 7, 8 years, and there was nothing in place to look after the players' physicality and none of the head percussion protocols
Yeah.
and the mental health support that they've got now. Um, Lewis Moody was on there, and I really hated Lewis Moody when he was playing. He did my head in. Um, 15 concussions within 6 month period.
Hmm.
They had Steve Borthwick on there, and obviously Steve Borthwick's got early onset dementia. Sad, really sad. The players have talked about their mental health, and they had video. Steve Borthwick recorded loads of stuff. They all had like the handheld, like the mini Sony camera type things. Obviously, nothing on phones then. Um, they just looked dead behind the eyes, man.
Mm.
They just looked broken. They just won the World Cup, but they were physically tired and broken. within a week of coming home from the Rugby World Cup, they were back playing for their clubs
Yeah, yeah. No, different
in
times now,
Spain.
innit?
Yeah.
Like
So you
Toby
know,
was saying, those players who came back from autumn internationals who were rested the week before last, he said they could not come back. He said,
yeah,
they were not in a state to play. Yeah, which
yeah.
is good.
So if you get the chance to watch it, then watch it. It's about an hour and a half long. I think it's on the Quest channel that I saw it on.
Okay,
Um, Very good. Sam
have a look.
recommends. Um,
Back to
Very,
Montpellier though. What are your
but man,
thoughts?
um, as I said, we've done the double over them.
Hmm.
We beat them out there. We beat them when they came back home here.
I think our
So I think,
record overall is 2-1.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we don't have the necessary fear factor against them that we could have.
Hmm.
Very similar circumstances going into playing them this weekend as we did 2 years ago, in that we had not been performing. Um, nothing had gone too well in our domestic league. But then we went out to Montpellier with a very, very weakened squad
Hmm.
and managed the impossible. So there's nothing to say that we can't do that this weekend. Nothing to say that we won't benefit from the rush of a win, and being able to have that win. It's
Hmm.
obviously gone. We've been quite unsettling moving to a different stadium. Things aren't where you think they are. I know a pitch is a pitch, but it's not the pitch you usually pay on. You don't necessarily know how the pitch is going to react. Um, so they can take a lot of comfort from that, but there
Hmm.
is no reason why I don't see why we can't have a little bit of confidence and not be cocky or overconfident, but not think we can go out and A, win, but B, make a good show of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, I wonder if they're going to play their criminals.
Mm. Um, they do have a tendency to sign.
Mm. Well,
I don't want to say criminals, but I don't want to be quite as harsh as saying domestic abusers either.
I think he's
Allegedly,
convicted, so he's a
yeah, I
convicted
can say it.
criminal.
Yeah, what an
And he's
arsehole.
he's just been I can't remember his name, but that prop, yeah, the domestic abuse guy. Um,
Yeah,
he's just been convicted of something fresh, isn't he? Or accused of
yeah,
something fresh within the last couple of days. But
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he runs out on the weekend with Montpellier's track record.
I
Um,
to be I'm going to sound quite controversial now. I'll try to own some is not that squeaky clean himself, so I don't think he's that bothered.
uh,
Um, I don't think there's I would like to think that if somebody had that reputation, the the regions wouldn't play them then. Should that make sense?
yeah,
Because I don't really recall off the top of my we've had idiots in Welsh rugby. We, Andy Powell golf cart.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's not like it, I don't think the Welsh public would excuse that then. Do you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? I would hope that the Welsh public wouldn't excuse that. Um, but yeah,
Well,
I think we can.
Rugby Twitter has been making a good effort of just resharing that video of him on the CCTV camera far and wide. So hopefully struggles to
I just
get
think,
that monkey off his back, and rightly so.
yeah, why
Um,
would you want? Why would you
yeah.
know? I,
No, I
yeah,
think the odds are in our favor. You could put it that way. Certainly, with when in a momentum sense, they've got home advantage. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's a difficult one to preempt because I'm not massively familiar with the team. I just know the record, and that we've
so
got.
it's 1 o'clock kick off as well. So
Yeah.
it's a nice early kick off.
Yeah.
Um, so but as I said, the weather out there is very incremental at this
Hmm.
incremental, check me out. So very different playing conditions.
Yeah.
out there. So it's not going to be as much of a slog as it was Sunday, or difficult
And what day of the
to
week
play
is
in.
it? Remind me. Have we had a 6 or a
Saturday,
7 day? So 6 day turnaround.
yeah, 6 day
Yeah.
turnaround.
With
Um,
travel, that could,
I think they're
hurt us a little bit.
I think they're
But I
traveling
don't
out on
think,
Friday.
okay. We didn't pick up any injuries against the Lions? No?
Uh, Not as
I didn't
far as
notice
I've
anything.
seen. I've had a little look and a little Google, and I haven't been able to see anything other than what was already there. I'll keep an eye on Toby's conference,
Yes.
pre-match conference this week to see
Come
what
out in
he
the next
says.
couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think, yeah, it'll be an interesting watch.
Hmm.
I will be watching this weekend. I'm not going anywhere or doing anything until the evening.
Hmm.
Um, John is off out on his gym Christmas do, and me and my bestie are having a cinema date to go and see Wicked. We haven't decided which one of us is going to be Glinda and which one of us is going to be Elphaba yet, but I think he'll probably go for Elphaba because I don't think he wants to wear the tiara. But fair play. But yeah, so I'll be looking forward to watching that. I'm not sure what TV channel it is on, but I'm assuming if anything, it will be on Premier
It's
Sport.
well, yeah, it's a
Is it?
real mix now, Europe this year. It's an absolute mess when it comes to organization. You never know what's going to be streamed where or when. Um,
I'll
so
just have a little
we are
Google.
on Be In Sports and Flow Rugby. So it's not going to be one that's possible
Yeah,
to
not one
watch
that I've
unless you
got
have
then.
secret avenues or pay for those subscriptions. So yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
not
S4C are showing one game every weekend, aren't they?
yeah.
Welsh
So it
games.
might be one that we're just watching on Twitter
Yeah.
in the looser sense of the
Scarlet is on
world.
Prem Sports. Cardiff is on S4C. Dragons and Ospreys are going to be a bit more difficult to find.
And I think that's one of the things I've seen a lot of on Twitter this week is people talking about how people can follow their team
Yeah.
if it's not being shown on one
Yeah. Yeah.
TV
And
channel.
EPCR Rugby.tv are doing one Welsh region a weekend as well,
Yeah,
but there's a one-off payment cost just for that stream of that game rather than for a month period, and it's
yeah.
quite dear. You're talking 7, 8 quid, I think. They were
It's
charging over the weekend just to watch the Scarlets lose.
yeah. Well, if there's a couple, if there's a couple of you who are like around and watching it, then great. But if not,
Hmm.
it's just not. It's
Yeah,
not cost effective. But yeah, so fingers crossed that our run in
mhm,
Europe continues.
yeah,
Um, so other news really. The other thing that we missed last time was the supposed Welsh Rugby Union strategy that had been leaked, and then we've not heard any more of it
yeah,
since. Um, and I've had a bit of a debate on Twitter with a couple of people on it because what the Welsh Rugby Union have said is basically they'll guarantee 80% of the funding that they're going to give to the clubs. So 96 million split across the four regions, and that is guaranteed. But then there's a further 20% that the clubs can get, providing the clubs meet certain requirements. So this will depend on how many Welsh players the clubs have, um, where they agree that they will play, how many minutes they will play, um, if there's any agreed terms for a player moving between clubs prior to season. They'll also decide where they're going to play. Um, they've also got to put a certain amount of funding into academy and everything else. The disagreement that I had on Twitter was regarding this 20%, because to me, if you've got to hit a certain amount of criteria, that's quite an arbitrary thing to do. Um, and effectively you're penalised if you don't hit those criteria. So my argument was, if you've agreed that you've got a Welsh player who plays in a certain position for your club, and then all of a sudden they can also play elsewhere. So your likes of Owen Watkin can go between two players. What if you've agreed that this player is going to play in this position for a certain number of minutes for the season, then all of a sudden you need them to change position because you've got a shortfall year, you're potentially losing some of your funding by being able to do that. The other thing that they've said as well is that the players have got to agree if they are going to move clubs. However, this is where my distrust comes in. Are you seriously telling me that if a player doesn't want to move region, then they're not shooting themselves in the foot?
Mhm.
That the coaching structure is not going to take umbrage with them, the fact that they won't move regions.
Yeah.
Also, if they don't spend their money, so if they're canny with their money, they get fined that money and they get that money less next year. So, for example, if they spend if they don't spend £100,000 out of their budget, then the next year their budget gets cut by 90 grand out of their guaranteed 90%. Um, so they'll get penalised if they go above or below their spending cap. Um, so for me, they start off investing 5.1 million, building into 6.8 million, but there's revenue chance then on top of that. They'll also take over some of their debt,
Well, yeah,
but
I
there
haven't
is a
looked much
control.
into it, but
There's a
that's
controlling
the
element
one.
there as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing I took out of it is that essentially they're using their own debt that they've put on the regions as a bargaining tool. It's like, yeah, here's this big ugly gremlin that we've attached to you for the last few years. We'll recapture it and take it off you and, release it into the wild if you agree to our terms, and these are our terms. So yeah.
And it is, they get to decide who your CEO is, who your head coach is, who your strength and conditioning coaches are.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of control there. So for me, I think for certain elements, I think it's a good idea in that you've got a shared facility with strength and conditioning, so everybody's got the same structure. Um, the regions can share the costs of shared conditioning and strength coaches, and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So it works on a certain element like that. But then I don't want a same size fits all for
Yeah.
everyone, because you know that may not, what works for Ospreys may not work within a Dragons announcement. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's kind of been shelved. Obviously, we're expecting the Abbey Tierney report next week
Mhm.
into Welsh rugby's catastrophic.
Merry
Um,
Christmas.
yeah, happy Christmas. You know, so we're expecting that next week. So I should imagine that something will come out around that
Yeah.
next week.
Should
We
we
can
leave it at
discuss
there
that
then?
in great.
Because
We'll discuss that in greater
we're
detail, because
getting not. Yeah.
at the moment the Welsh Rugby Union are saying no, this is not what's agreed.
Mm.
The Wales Online is saying, well, this is what's been leaked to us, and I think it's going to be one of those that perhaps I'm cynical, but I think sometimes things are leaked sometimes to gauge public reaction.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and that's kind of it, really, for breaking news. We've had a
Mm.
couple of questions on social media with regards to some interaction. One of them was with regards to Adam Beard and how much of a loss it is going to be if he does go to Montpellier. Andrew, hi Andrew, my little buddy. Great to be back to winning a rugby game last weekend. We saw a good, strong structure and a good, strong defence. Should we look to replace Adam Beard or develop from within and spend our money elsewhere on the field?
I don't even know if it's a sure thing that he's going anymore.
I'd
If the
not
deal
heard that
was,
it's
in process, and then he's gone and got that severe
Injury.
injury, it could have literally been ripped up on the spot by management over at Montpellier. We've said it before, he'd be a massive loss, so I'd like
Yeah.
to be able to keep him. This is the critical moment now with the development of some of those youngsters that we talked about, your Fenders, your Lewis Joneses, your Will Griff, who looks like he's going to be coming back soon as well. It'd be nice for them to at least get a couple of seasons, with maybe him pushing those guys through. Um,
Yeah.
but
It's all
yeah,
gone
I
a bit
mean, I,
quiet
I
with the
think we've
deal,
got
isn't it?
some good lock options at the moment. We're just a little
Yeah.
bit injury stricken. I think if he was to go, we'd be in a really good place with Rhys Davies and Fender as our starting options.
Yeah.
I'd be really happy with that as a starting second row, with then your likes of Will Griff, Lewis Jones to come off the bench. Ratty, when he's back as well, can do a job at six and in the second row. So yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned. It would just be a shame because he's given a lot to the club, and
Does that quiet,
he
dirty
strikes
work
me
that
as the
we
kind
need.
of player that, if given the opportunity, he could maybe like being just one of those one club kind of players, and
Yeah.
just winding out his career.
He's a
But
family man, and he's
yeah,
very he is in the all senses of the word a gentle giant, isn't he?
yes, yeah,
Um and he does a lot of the unseen work that perhaps some
mhm,
fans don't always appreciate with
yeah,
him. Um but that and the comment from Jeff that we had earlier on. Um, one of the other comments that we've had is from Martin. I've got it right this time about season tickets. Martin, I will raise that on your behalf because I do think it is a good idea. Um, because I know from when John was working chefs, that's the reason why we didn't have um, season tickets, is because it wasn't always viable for us to be able to go to everything. So I think a shared season ticket or the ability to give gift your season ticket to the games that you can't go is a really good idea. So I will raise that. I'd also like to say bravo to Lance. I'm also trying to learn Welsh at the minute. And Lance is also trying to learn Welsh at the minute. So perhaps we could learn Welsh together, Lance. I'm just putting it out there. Um, Marc promised me he'd teach me swear words in Welsh, and he hasn't done that yet. And Nick Williams also said he promised to teach me swear words in Welsh, and he hasn't done that yet either. You're on mute.
I said, what words do you want to know? I can speak a decent level of
Bad
Welsh.
ones. Bad ones. Really bad ones. Um,
Google can tell you that. I won't
you know what,
lower
right?
myself to that level.
I am really good, right, on you.
Hmm.
I don't swear on you. I'm really, really good. In in general life, I got the morals of a saint and the mouth of a sailor. So I snaps me for being on you and being, PG-ish,
Hmm.
work friendly. Um, but yeah, happy days.
Can I
But
can I
the
tell you my favorite Welsh wildlife name?
Go for it.
It's the jay. You know the jays in the garden that bully
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
else off
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
feeders. Sgrech y coed, which means screamer of the trees or screecher of the woods.
All right, okay. So sgrech y coed.
Sgrech y coed, yeah.
Sgrech y coed.
Yeah. And it's a lovely
Ah,
onomatopoeic word, isn't it? Screch, as sort of
screech.
scream or screech.
Screech. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which
Oh,
is
I
so
like
true.
that.
You got horrible noise. It's
Yeah, I
proper like
don't. I'm
nails down
not
a
a fan.
chalkboard sort of stuff.
Um, so we're coming towards the end,
Yeah.
and we're just going to do a quick Sam Randall because it's only me and you. So macho debate in our house. John is very unhappy with me because he doesn't get the opportunity to play Whamageddon because it
Okay.
is my phone. It's my phone ringtone from the 1st of November. Um, I I'm just going to say it right. Last Christmas by Wham is not only the greatest Christmas song of all time, it's the greatest song of all time. I love it. I was 7 when it came out and I had a picture disc. And on one side was Andrew as a reindeer, and on the other side was George as Santa. At that point in time, I fell in love with George. How I did not know or guess he was gay. I don't know. But, the signs were there. So for me, absolutely love Wham! Last Christmas.
Mhm.
Absolutely adore it. Big fan of Fairy Tale of New York. Please don't change the lyrics. We
Mhm.
don't need to. It is
Yeah,
of its time. Don't
yeah,
get offended. It is what it is.
agreed.
What is your favorite Christmas song?
So of the classics, if you were to get your Now Christmas CD and
I got
play
it on
that,
vinyl.
um, I tend to edge towards the more somber songs. So I
Okay.
love Lonely This Christmas by Mud.
I love that.
And I feel like I can sing it quite well as well in that low and
Yeah.
melodic sort of
It'll
tone.
be
So it's,
lonely this
yeah, it's just one
Christmas.
that's fun to sing, isn't it? With a proper like bluesy voice. You can even slow it down more than it is so far. But in terms of my, I- I'm hesitating to say it, but my all-time favorite Christmas song is one that I've been listening to a lot over the last maybe 5 years when it gets to Christmas time, is uh, a song by this metal band called Sabaton. I don't know if you've
Okay.
heard of them, but the song's
No.
called A Christmas Truce or just Christmas Truce. And in the very sort of metal band style, it's quite a militaristic song. And they're singing about Christmas in the trenches, where,
Oh yeah, like John
both
O'Leary.
sides came out and they played a game of football on Christmas Day. They don't talk about that specifically, but they're singing about this
That's the thing.
Christmas truce. Really good song. It's got everything a Christmas song needs. It's got bells, it's got the sort of choral, sort of choir stuff going on in the background in parts. It's got strings, it's got that orchestral feel at points. It's got really good guitar solos and a bit of riffing in there. It's just awesome. And it tells a really good story, and the lyrics are good, which is so important to me in both rock and metal songs, but Christmas songs as well. So, Sabaton, Christmas
Christmas
Truce.
truce.
Everyone listen to it.
I will add that to my playlist.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also quite ashamed to admit that every year as well, I also say to John, and this is really bad. Um, I'm obviously of the age where, you had Shakin' Stevens and Slade. So I
Hmm.
grew up with those. And every year I say to John, tell you what we don't hear anymore. And I, just as it leaves my mouth, I know exactly what I'm saying. Rock and Roll Christmas by Gary Glitter. Every year I say the same thing. And John just looks at me and I'm like, yeah, I know why it's not played on the radio anymore now. And I loved that as a kid, and I'm always like really sorry that that's not played now.
Yeah.
But I'm also a fan of I don't know if you've heard it. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. That is amazing.
Hmm.
But yeah, so we will be back next week
Hmm.
and we'll talk about all things Montpellier, but we'll have a bit of fun heading into Christmas and the Scarlets. And we might do a Sam's Christmas quiz.
Hmm. So will this be, it might be our last episode before Christmas, potentially.
Potentially, we
Yeah.
can do,
Depending on what everyone's movements are over the holidays.
yeah,
But we let you know. But if it is
that
our
will be on
last one, maybe we'll do
socials.
Christmas jumpers. I mean, I know you've already started. You started about half a month ago. But the rest of us
Rude.
will put our Christmas jumpers on, is what I mean.
Listen, you were lucky because they got matching boy ones of these in next. I nearly brought you and Rod Highland, you and Marc Christmas jumpers to match mine.
Ooh,
But I
ooh.
thought it was
What what do you think of this jersey? It just arrived today. I got it as a little steal off
Canter-
Vinted.
Canterbury, nice
I
vintage.
I don't recognize it. I can't find out much information about it. What year is it from? If
Don't know.
anybody knows, it's like a barbarian style one with,
Get us.
you
I
know,
like it.
well,
You've
you can't
gone
see me
to
when
a
I
screen.
stand up, but all the stripes
I
going
like
down
that.
there. Yeah, it's nice. It's
I
nice.
like Canterbury
Um,
gear. It's vintage.
yeah, Vinted. I did that thing
Love a
where I
vintage
liked
find.
it and then forgot
They
about it for
message
months.
you.
And they messaged me back going, "Hey,
Banging.
I'll do it for a fiver."
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
So just the two of us this week.
Hmm.
Um, been a pleasure catching up with you again. It's been a bit of a long one, but that's because we've not spoken to each other for 2 weeks, really.
Yeah, we're the two
So
chatty ones.
Yeah, Marc keeps us. I like to say that I keep us under control, but the reality is Marc is, he'll be giving us, detention and stuff now.
Yeah.
But happy Christmas, everyone. I'm just getting it in there now because I feel like I can. Get your trees up. And do you know what would make me happy? If everybody sent me pictures of their trees. Send me pictures of your trees on Instagram and Twitter.
Bombard her now.
Bombard me. I love it. Christmas is my happy thing. Um, it's a time of year where I'm not cynical. And Happy Christmas War is Over by John Lennon and Yoko Ono makes me
Mhm.
cry. But have a lovely week, everyone. Let's hope we carry the momentum on now into Montpellier. Before I forget, if anybody is attending the Scarlets game from Neath or the Bryn Coch area, the supporters club is running a bus. It's all over the social medias. Ospreys are also doing a fun day for Scarlets and stuff as well outside. There'll be stuff going on in the Riverside with Toby's Tombola and everything else. So get involved.
Mhm.
Um, keep up with us on socials. We'll post as soon as we see things. Banners up with all our socials on. Fingers crossed for Montpellier, Rob. Rhod,
Mhm.
if I see anywhere where we can watch it, then I won't get in trouble with the police or the license agency. But you know, um, have a good week, everyone. Have a good week, Rhod, and I'll see you next week.
See you all. Bye.
Bye.